This episode is brought to you by Skills, the worldwide leader in mobile esports. Play the games you love and win real cash prizes. Go to skills.com/GFQ on your iOS or Android device. That's Skills with a Z. And download your favorite games. When you make a deposit, Skills will double it. And when you use the promo code GFQ, you'll get an additional $10 in free bonus cash. That's skills.com/GFQ.
What's the take?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Angel Zarian, and I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. Happy New Year, Paul.
Is it?
I don't know. Is it a Happy New Year? How has your New Year gone? We're 3 days in to January 2017. You know, we're living in the future now. I don't know if you know this.
What does that mean?
For you, when you were a kid, right, and you thought about the future, what year would you think of?
Oh, right. Well, probably 2000.
2000. For me, 2010.
Yep.
I saw some movie. It was like some 80s or early 90s movie. And it took place in the year 2010. And I'm going to tell you, it was so much cooler than it is now.
Yep.
Nothing has
that was a big
changed.
thing in Back to the Future, right? Didn't that stuff happen?
What was it, 2016?
2011 or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it could have been, actually, it could have been Back to the Future. Nothing has changed. Everything is the same. So, but I started out my year good. The first was Taylor's first birthday.
Taylor Swift?
Taylor Zarian, Taylor Hayden Zarian. It was her first birthday, so we had a big party at the house, and I'm totally bloated, and I've ate too much, and I've drank too much over the last week, and now I'm back to reality, and it's miserable. So you are flying.
I was up till 4:00 in the morning on New Year's Eve, like an idiot.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Did you have a party?
Yes, we did.
Oh, nice. I went to bed at 11:55.
Yeah, that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it definitely was. The next day I felt great while everybody was miserable. Guys, we have so much to talk about today. It is our yearly prediction show. We're going to predict what we see happening in 2017. I'm also going to pull up, I don't know, I hope we did notes last year. It could have been like this year where we didn't do notes, but I'm curious to see what we predicted was going to happen in 2016. I think we kind of hit the nail on the head last year because we had said that.
Sure, we did.
You know why? I'll tell you, last year we predicted that augmented reality would be a big thing this year in 2016. And you know what? It kind of was with Pokemon Go.
Jeez. Although no one saw Pokemon Go coming.
Nobody did.
Where's the list? We got to find this.
I got to find it. I'll find it when we start going into some of our predictions. I'll buy some time when you're talking, Paul, and I'll look for it. But before we go on, let's thank our sponsor, and that's Skills, the worldwide leader in mobile esports. Play the games you love and win real cash prizes. Go to skills.com/GFQ on your iOS or Android device. That's Skills with a Z, and you can download your favorite free games. When you make a deposit to Skills, Skills will double it. And when you use the promo code GFQ, you'll get an additional $10 in free bonus cash. That's skills.com/GFQ. They got some great things going on. Some singles tournaments that begin as low as a penny, and you can win up to $100. Listen, if you're playing a game like me, I'm on the subway all the time going into the city. I'm playing some stupid game. Might as well make a couple bucks playing it. Skills.com/GFQ. I want to thank Skills for being here in 2017. So, Paul, this year's going to be really interesting because we ended 2016 very interestingly. And and I'll tell you why. We had the Samsung debacle happen towards the last half of the year. That was devastating. We discussed that in the worst of 2016 show. And, I mean, still to this day, I'm seeing so much negativity about this new MacBook Pro. Consumer Reports is saying that this is not a buy. They're not happy with this device. Could this be a major pivotal shift in the perception of the Apple ecosystem? You know, how it's premium devices. And I've always said, they can't go wrong with this MacBook Pro. It may be a little expensive, but it's a beautiful device, and it works really well, and that's why I always buy it. The things that I genuinely love about this product, I absolutely hate on the new one. The keyboard sucks, the trackpad is too big, and it's just not a great piece of hardware.
Andrew, we're not going to have another rant show about Apple, are we?
We're
Because
not, no.
you know, if we do, that I'm going to be forced to defend them again.
I know,
and
I know.
That makes me really upset.
We're not going to do that today. We're not going to defend Apple today. But I would like to know your opinion on where you see Apple headed in 2017, because you know, the watch didn't really take off as well. It was the best-selling smartwatch of all time, right? But really, the market is really small. Their iPad market slowed down. We don't know what's going to happen because they don't release real numbers with the iPhone. But it was a lackluster year for them. So where do you see them headed?
You know, I actually have this as one of my items for the predictions, but it was for the MacBook Pro specifically. The issue that Apple has is the issue that any market leader has, which is eventually they get really boring and they can't keep one-upping themselves. You know, I honestly, virtually everything they released this past year was kind of like, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot to do with maturity, not with a problem at Apple. I don't know that there is a solution to this problem. So, you know, they're a ginormous company. They're not going to fall hard. They can coast forever. And, you know, they have opportunities in the coming year to do some interesting things, right? There's stuff with automobiles. There's stuff with, obviously, the 10th generation iPhone. There's stuff with computers still. By the way, there's lots of computers that haven't been updated, that need to be updated. I bet that stuff happens. New watch. I think we're going to see new iPad Pros. But, you know, as far as like a new gangbuster product, I mean, no, that doesn't happen. But they already have some very good
well, their iPhone will be
products.
the gangbuster product, right? The new iPhone, whatever they do with this, where it's edge-to-edge glass or whatever, you know, whatever. I think this is the year for that. We've had this form factor for the iPhone for a couple of years now, and I think that's going to be the big thing. I do predict a new MacBook Pro where they come around and say, hey, guys, you know, Consumer Reports, this one is way better. We fixed the things you didn't like. I think we'll get a tweaked MacBook Pro, and then everybody will say, oh, my God, this is so much better, and they'll be back to normal.
Well, so here's the thing. So
how do you fix
the MacBook Pro is actually a very sticky situation. I have been surprised to read on a number of sites that the things that I think are problematic with this device are actually okay to people. You know, people have said, you know, the keyboard is okay after you use it for a week or so. You get used to it. It's not horrible. Like it's workable. As a professional writer, I would not be okay with that kind of endorsement, but I mean, I see a lot of that kind of stuff. Also, I think out of the gate, this thing, you know, Apple made the claim this is the fastest selling, I don't know, Mac Portable or maybe MacBook Pro, whatever it was they said. I think that's going to slow down, but what this means is some tens of thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of people have bought this device.
Yeah.
You can't replace it in 3 months. You can't tweak it now. You could do that a year from now, but you can't do it now. And so, like, how do you fix this in 2017 in a way that doesn't piss off the people who did buy it and makes it right for the people who didn't? Right? How do you do that?
I don't think you can. I don't think that's possible.
It's a big problem.
I'll give an example, okay? You talk about Apple's perception. So always, you know, I think majority of the time, Apple has a positive perception amongst people that they look at the high-end market. You may like Macs, you may dislike Macs for the software, whatever your issues, but nobody says that this is a really bad computer. Jess, I just got Jess a new camera, and she's using this really outdated MacBook MacBook Air from a couple of years ago, and she was looking to possibly get a new MacBook. She turned around and said, I said, why don't you go buy a new MacBook? She goes, I don't want to buy that thing. Have you read the reviews?
Well, no, it's not that. You know, I've actually, this is, by the way, and there's an Apple apologist thing that happens on the web. Like, a lot of these blogs are so pro-Apple, they can't stand, like, any criticism of Apple.
Yeah.
And I've seen this in numerous reviews of this device where they've said, you know, they're going to try to be critical. Like, this isn't really a great upgrade for a Pro, but what this thing is a great upgrade for an Air.
Yeah.
Except one thing, it cost 3 times as much as a MacBook Air. That's the problem. You're not, you know, going from $1,000 or $1,200 to $1,500. You go to like $2,800 or $3,200, whatever the price may be. I mean, this thing is astronomically expensive, and you know, I mean, I keep falling back on this idea that they should never have made the touch strip thing part of it. It should have been an option. And it's the type of goofy thing that would be on a consumer device. It would cost a lot less. Like it's it's so weird for them to put a toy
Yeah.
like that on a Pro device. But again, how do you fix that,
How do
right?
you fix that?
You're going to come up with a lower cost version of it that doesn't have that
Which
thing
they
on it.
do, which they have one, but it's not
but
that
for
great.
the 15, but for the 15.
No,
Like in other words,
yeah, for 13
what I
as
mean
well.
is, no. I mean, they don't have one for the.
They
15.
don't have one for the 15. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, to be truthful, that device isn't the same device.
No, very
It
slow.
is not right. It's not just the strip, right? So there's no good solution for this, but I think they need to address it.
Yeah. I absolutely.
How do you do it? Seriously, think about it. Like, how do you fix this without admitting you're wrong, which they never do, without pissing off those people who spent all that money? I mean, how? I don't think it's possible. They've really gotten themselves into a corner on this one.
You know what's interesting? I'm looking at our predictions from last year, right?
Okay.
And
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you what you predicted for Apple.
Okay.
Apple will surpass Samsung as the world's biggest maker of smartphones, but iPhone sales will seriously cool in 1H 2016. 1H
First half.
Yeah, first half of 2016.
Yeah. So actually, that happened in the second half.
It happened in the second half. I had no Apple predictions last year.
So we don't know how these companies did in the fourth quarter. It's fair to say that Samsung outsold Apple through the third quarter of 2016. But you got to wonder with the Note, right?
Yeah, that might have changed
if that
everything.
didn't, so we'll see. I mean, we'll see. There was a story. I would say overall for the year that what I said did not happen. Although iPhone sales did cool later than I thought. And I think that trend continues. They just reduced shipment orders for the current quarter as well.
Oh, here was my prediction. You want to see mine? iPhone 7 will be the best-selling smartphone of all time. Multiple models, starting with 32 gig storage. I was wrong about the 32 gig storage because they went to 64. Was it the best-selling phone of all time?
No.
No.
In fact, this was the year that they experienced year-over-year sales declines for the first time with iPhone.
So since we're talking about Samsung, let's go. So if we were to predict, talking about Apple, right over there, Jess is here looking for her MacBook. If we're talking about Samsung, I mean, it has to be a way better year. 2017 is their year to shine, right? It can't be any worse than it was. I do predict that they will. Here's my prediction for Samsung. They will have the best smartphone camera of all time. And Apple will not match them this year when it comes to camera quality.
It's fair to say Apple is not matching them right now.
I don't know, but that's debatable depending on who you ask. I think there's going to be a major
I don't think
change.
that's debatable at all. I think the Samsung and the Pixel both have better cameras than the iPhone. This iPhone Rev has been curiously a step back.
Yeah. What do you see for Samsung? Where do you see them going? Do they apologize? I mean, how do they fix their blunder?
Well, they've already apologized, right? So, I don't have anything in here about Samsung specifically, but I did see a thing today about a Samsung Galaxy S8 rumor where it was going to have like a continuum-like feature where you could dock it.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't think that Samsung's kind of in-house initiatives like that have ever gone anywhere. I can't think of a single example of one that has.
What have they had? They've had, I mean, Tizen, right? That's their OS, but it's really.
Well, I don't mean like. I mean, I'm thinking more of like you're building something on top of Android, so we're gonna offer a feature that frankly should be part of Android. Like, so remember with it's probably the S5 or the S6, they had like you could hover over the screen, you could put it upside down, you could do all this bullshit with it. And I don't think that stuff kind of flies with people. And I also think that something as deep as like a continuum type feature, like that needs to come from sorry, to step back. Samsung did like side-by-side apps before it was part of Android, right? So nobody really, even though they're the biggest smartphone maker in the world, like nobody ever really did anything with it. But once it becomes part of Android, then it becomes kind of interesting. And so I don't think that if they do this continuum type feature for the S8, I just don't think it's going to be a big deal. But I think that kind of feature is a big deal, just not from them.
Let's say it's a continuum type feature. It's going to be Android on what? Like
well, you attach a keyboard and a mouse to a dock and a screen, and you've got like
Android
apps running on a big screen.
You know what's interesting? I have to tell you, if we're talking about disappointments with Android, I am shocked and really disappointed at the deployment of the new version of Chrome OS that has Android support. Because I have a Chromebook and I bought it for the specific reason. It
Yep.
was on that list. It was, it's one of the best-selling Chromebook. I got the one that everybody recommended, that this is the one, and they delayed it, and still, we're in early 2017, first quarter 2017. I do not have Android apps on this thing. They really dropped the ball on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I literally just wrote about this. It's like the Chromebook plus Android revolution. It never happened, right?
Yeah.
The only devices that are supported today are literally the ones they announced, at launch back in May, unless you want to go into like the beta or developer channels.
Yeah.
And even then, it's still at less than 10. It's like 7 devices.
Yeah,
and,
it's bizarre. Why I
yeah.
don't understand what changed in the initiative to kind of, because
I
they didn't
think
really
this
release
was-
too much hardware either.
Well, yeah. So, but actually, that's the other half of the story. There was going to be a bunch of new Chromebook hardware coming out in the second half of 2016 that would work like an Android tablet. The point being, like, we're going to add touch and make it work. It could be Android. It'd be like having an Android tablet or a laptop. That never happened, right? And I think the reason, I can only guess, right, because they've never talked about it, but I think the issue is that the difficulty of getting Android apps to run in an ecosystem that's largely non-touch devices. All right, hello, non-touch devices with a mouse pointer and a keyboard. It's just not working.
Yeah.
And I think what they found is that the problem with Android is going to be exacerbated by the problems with Chrome OS, meaning device fragmentation. That they have to tailor the apps for every supported Chromebook to make sure that they work. And for a developer like Google or Microsoft, like, that's doable. But for Bob, who made the little skiing game you might happen to love, that's a daunting prospect. Yeah. And there are a billion of those apps in the store. And I don't think I just don't think it's gone as well as I thought it was going to.
Here was my Google prediction this year. Last year, Google will start updating OSs much quicker for flagship phones, Samsung, HTC, LG.
That's a good prediction.
That was last year. That was last year. Yep. I failed at this.
Right,
that is still
happened.
once again my prediction.
That's a good
year.
one. Like, that should have happened.
Well, here's an interesting thing. Okay,
there's no excuse.
Samsung has figured out a way, and I think this is going to happen this year. Samsung has figured out a way to kind of bypass the carrier, delay when it comes to updating their apps by running beta programs. I think that they ran it in November, and it was the first time that they attempted something like this, where you just connect it to your computer and you download the OS. It updates for the carrier. It was a much smaller beta program. I want to say maybe tens of thousands, instead of hundreds of thousands. I think that was the case study to see how well this will work and how much of a disaster it'll be. I anticipate that this is going to be the direction moving forward with a lot of these carriers, where like Microsoft does that, right, with the Insiders program, Insiders program, right? Insider. No, which one is the S?
Right, which one's right?
Wait, Skype.
I think it's Insider.
And Skype is Insiders.
I think.
Yes. So with the Insider program, you could get early builds, right? Or you could get the OS. You don't have to wait for a carrier. You could just bypass it. This will be the approach by LG and Samsung this year.
Okay, to mimic what Microsoft did.
To mimic kind of what Microsoft did, yeah, and what Apple does.
I don't understand why Google doesn't do this, and I don't understand why only Google would have to do it just to get it onto all the phones,
I think it's a preference. I don't think the OEMs want you to update your OS. They want it to get slow, they want it to get old, and then they want you to go and buy a new one.
Okay, but I'm just talking about security updates. This is literally about benefiting the entire ecosystem of people, because when your phone goes south or your PC goes south, you impact other people. It's not just you, And I think that's the important stuff.
Yeah. Samsung will have a wonderful year, in my opinion, with the S8 and the, I guess, what would they call the Note? The Note 7.5? The Note 7. We did it right this time.
I mean, God, can you imagine? So I listen, nobody wants this kind of PR problem, right?
Yeah.
What do you call the next one?
Yeah, what do you call it? Can you call it a Note?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're going to call it the Note 8? I mean, you've got this little whole...
Samsung does like editions, right? Like they had a VR edition to a phone. Maybe they'll do the "this one won't explode" edition. won't burn edition of the Note 7. I don't know. I don't know what they call it, but it's interesting that they did not come up with a replacement or a timeline for a suitable replacement. They just told you to go buy an S7, an S7
Right.
Edge. That was a replacement for it. So, listen, Samsung can't be any worse than 2016 was. Here was an interesting prediction last year. BlackBerry will be bought.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how they've kind of just stumbled along, you know. I
Do you have a prediction
well,
for BlackBerry this year?
no,
Does
I mean,
anybody?
I don't think BlackBerry matters per se, right? So I think they're in the same boat as Nokia. They're just going to be kind of a boutique phone maker at this point. It's almost like they're doing it for nostalgia reasons. I don't even understand the business. I don't even know why they bother.
Let's talk about. Here was one that I got right. Microsoft will announce a new model of the Xbox One, faster, smaller, cooler.
Nice.
I hit that right on the head.
Yep.
I wonder if I
Yep.
read an article on Thurrott.com that told me this was going
I don't remember, but it seems like the Xbox One happened quicker in the life cycle than the Xbox One S happened. But I don't remember for sure. And I would say, you know, arguably they were more in need of a hardware redo because of the size of that device. And so they turned something, you know, into something beautiful, you know.
Here's a
really
question
nice.
for you. What is your prediction for the Xbox this year?
For the Xbox?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to have Scorpio next year.
Yeah. Well, this year, right?
Sorry, this year. Yep.
Any
So that's
predictions about
huge.
it? Because we don't really know as much as we should, right?
If this thing is what they say it's going to be, which is actual 4K gaming, right? And the thing they kind of haven't said too much about, but I believe it's going to be Windows holographic compatible, meaning you can wear some kind of a headset, do VR, AR, whatever. I think it has. I mean, I don't want to say something like it's going to reverse the fortunes of the Xbox. And the Xbox is going to suddenly beat the PlayStation. I think that's a hard slog, but it's going to restore the respect that I think Xbox deserves already from the people who are still grudgingly kind of holding out on that. And I do think it's going to close the gap between the PlayStation and Xbox for this gen. I don't think they're going to beat them. I don't mean it like that, but it's going to be respectable. Whereas today, it's not so much.
With the Xbox, here's a question for you. With the Xbox, do you attribute them being behind Sony in the numbers race to Sony coming out before and the Xbox being more expensive than the PlayStation when it
It's the
initially came out?
expense. Yeah. So
Even though you
this
got
happened.
Connect with it.
Yeah, this happened in the previous gen. The Xbox in that gen came out a year earlier. It was a big gap. It was cheaper, and that just made all the difference in the world. This generation, they came out at roughly the same time, but the Xbox was more expensive, and they made all the same mistakes that Sony made last time, explaining why it had to be this way and everything, and it didn't. It really didn't have to be this way, and they fixed it. You know, and Microsoft didn't help matters by kind of bungling the messaging the whole year leading up to the launch. They ended up getting rid of the people responsible for that. It was just a disaster. The current crew that's handling Xbox for Microsoft is doing such an incredible job, especially given the hand they were dealt. It was like, hey, you're 10 laps behind, jump into the race. They've just done an amazing job. So it's again, like I said, it's hard to overcome momentum and inertia and all that stuff, but I from just a quality perspective, the Xbox strategy is so solid right now. It's so great. The product is great. The Xbox One S is fantastic. And I think this is going to be a big year for Xbox.
Yeah, I totally
It's
agree
nice.
with you on that. We had a lot of AR and VR predictions for this year.
Okay.
We spoke about that. But before we do, Paul, hey, let's talk about Thurrott.com for a second. Let's talk about premium memberships at Thurrott.com.
Okay.
Is today the last day, or is the offer over? It says
today. Okay, so let me think.
January 3rd. It
So
says,
we have the holiday promotion that ends today, which is the 3rd.
so people could still sign up today.
As of today.
As of today.
As of Tuesday.
So if you're watching this live,
Yeah.
you could go and sign up. $48 for the year, $575 per month. This is the last day to do this.
There's also a special promotion we're running right now for 1 week during the week of CS. So whenever you sign up, it's for the next week. For $1, you get access to premium just for the week, right?
Oh, that's
So this will
great.
give you the opportunity to go back and read all the premium stuff we've written and determine if this is something you think is a good idea. So that's kind of a neat little thing,
That
right?
is a neat
So
thing.
we're going to be doing a bunch of stuff at CS, Brad and I. And I don't think any of it's going to be premium content. The point of this isn't to hide the CS stuff behind a paywall or anything like that, but it's just tied to CS. So while CES is undergoing or whatever, you can sign up for 1 week for $1 and just see what it's like. And if you want, just catch up on the premium stuff we've already written that maybe you missed out on because you didn't join or whatever. And like I said, you can just determine if it's valuable enough to actually join or not. It's up to you.
Excellent. I'm a big fan of Thurrott.com. So
Yeah.
I'm a premium member, and you should be as well. Thurrott.com, sign up for a premium membership. So I wanted to mention that before we continued. Let's talk about augmented reality and VR and where you see this headed in 2017. Because 2016 was a big year for it, but not as big as I think 2017 will be.
Yeah. What did you say? What did we say last year?
So
about,
here's
this?
mine. Augmented reality will take over VR. That was my prediction. Yours was VR goes mainstream, and Google out ARs Microsoft HoloLens with Project Tango.
Yep. So I don't think any of that happened. VR became more mainstream. We saw Daydream happen last year. We saw PlayStation VR happen. We now have a range of choices from a $15 cardboard all the way up to a $1,500 Oculus Rift plus a $1,500 or whatever the prices are there. $2,500 ish of stuff for a really high-end system. That stuff's all going to get better this year. I mean, this is just a fact. It's not a prediction. I mean, that stuff's all going to get better. I think the Windows holographic stuff's going to be really interesting. We're going to see. We'll see. We already have seen the first bits of that at CES.
By the way, little correction. The offer has expired.
Oh, I thought it was through today.
No, it has expired today until the 3rd. So the offer's expired. So, but you could sign up for $1.
Oh, that's good. It's a good thing that page is still up. That was really smart.
Yeah. The beauty of editing, Paul, that nobody will know what we're talking about right now.
Why don't you talk for a minute while I inform my workplace of this problem?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you look at AR and VR, obviously the headsets have gotten cheaper and this now every manufacturer's doing this now. We're seeing it seep into mainstream gaming. But the real story last year was Pokemon Go and how nobody saw this thing taking off like this. I don't think anybody predicted this game would explode like this. And, it's based on a platform that existed previously that did not really become a major thing. This year, my prediction is Nintendo, along with, I forgot the parent company that made this,
Niantic.
Niantic. They will release, exactly just like Pokemon Go, they will release different games. You'll have a Mario version of Pokemon Go. You'll have a Zelda version of this. I think there's a lot of money in this.
Interesting.
A lot of money. I think they could just take the platform, they take the engine, and they just spread it across all these different games. Nintendo could capitalize big time on some sort of Nintendo game where you got to, instead of, fighting them, you got to jump on the mushrooms or something. In a Zelda game where you got to find the princess and you got to fight things.
That's very specific, Andrew.
That is my exact projection.
It's like you're like designing a game.
I have designed it already. I'm working on this project.
And as one would expect, it involves a princess. So, when I made the prediction about Project Tango versus HoloLens last year, you got to remember that Microsoft's VR/AR solution was HoloLens and HoloLens only. We knew nothing about Windows holographic.
Yeah.
$3,000. Not broadly available unless you happen to be rich, I guess, and want to take a chance. And then Tango was this thing that was going to be AR in a phone, right? And think about it. I mean, the rationale there is if they can pull this off, HoloLens is sunk.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that's changed is Microsoft has announced Windows holographic, and that won't come to market until this coming year. But this really kind of democratizes that, and so we're going to see headsets for that are like $300 and run on low-end PCs, and that's actually really cool. So I think that Project Tango kind of fits in the matrix of VR/AR/ mixed reality, whatever you want to call it, solutions that run the gamut again from $35 to $2,000, and depending on what devices you own, you choose one or you don't, and that's your experience. So I do think that Pokemon Go is the big wake up call this year. That thing could work.
Isn't it amazing?
On a related note,
isn't it amazing though? I mean, how they. I mean, from day one that game came out, it exploded. And I'll tell you something. I mean, obviously, slowed down. The winter is here and kids are back in school, but it's still a major
thing. If they're
thing.
smart, they'd be putting them in malls and stuff now.
Well, it is. It is. In malls.
I know, but I mean, just like focus the winter on the places where they'd be on ski mountains and.
The problem is, like, I played it, right? And it was a lot of fun in the summer because I would sit at the bar and there was a Pokestop there, and I would play it like that. It was a lot of fun. I would just sit at the bar.
You're the Pokemon version of a camper.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. Yeah, I was a camper in Pokemon Go. And it was fun in the summer because you see people playing, and actually, I met a lot of people, like, sitting at the bar playing it.
Yeah,
it was very social.
This game was eye-opening in so many ways, yeah.
Now it's slowed down, but it gets really repetitive. It gets really, really repetitive. Like Suncast, for example, goes out and plays it almost every day. He absolutely loves this game. And he's not a gamer. I think that's where...
No, I know. It's incredible.
The gaming industry will capitalize on people like him and people like me that, well, we're not really playing games, but we could play this.
Sure.
They made I mean, I can't... did they make over $1 billion on this stupid game? I think they did.
Oh, I don't know,
But... It's amazing. Worldwide. I see more games like that coming. With Google, where do you think they go? What do you think they're with Google and AR? Where do you think their direction will it be a mainstream success for Google?
No, I don't think so.
Who do you think would have? Microsoft would have the advantage because of, I guess, HoloLens?
No, the problem with VR, AR, whatever, is that it's not a big bang technology. I do think that there's what I mean is, like, it's not something every single person is going to just adopt, like, and use all the time. I mean, there are things like a phone where we all kind of really need this thing now, and it's just part of our lives. And VR, AR, it's more immersive and it's more interactive than watching TV, but it kind of falls into this. It can be kind of a blended entertainment, education, experience. I mean, I think it's a slow boil. So I think all this stuff gets better next year. I don't think anyone is going to emerge as some winner. I don't think that's how this market works. I think we're going to see the range of devices, range of capabilities, range of price points. I just don't. It's not. I'll make a prediction. I think Apple will get into AR this year.
Ooh, that's that's a good prediction.
But I don't think there's going to be any winner. Like, I don't think that's how this works.
You know what? You know who's going to be the winner? Apple. I'll tell you exactly how they'll do it, okay? They will do AR where you are walking into an Apple store and buying a Mac or an iPhone. That's how you buy your Macs.
You can have, like, the Apple Store experience in your living room.
Exactly.
Turn your living room into an Apple store.
You know what? If this comes true, I'm the Nostradamus of Apple products. I will hit. You know what? I'm telling you, this is a big thing for these companies. You could go to any store like that. Amazon could have their own store. You just do AR.
Yep. I think that we're going to be drowning. There's two things we're going to be drowning in this year now. And I think there's going to be a little bit of a backlash, right? And one of them is going to be this VR stuff. I just think there's too much of it. I think we're going to be drowning in VR solutions. And at some point, too many choices becomes a problem, right? For people, because they just say, it's too much. I'm going to wait. Let me see what happens, And what's going to happen is most of it's going to go away because no one buys anything. So there's that problem for VR. But I also think this problem affects, I don't know what you call them, but like digital assistant appliances.
Okay.
Things like the Alexa powered, Dot and Dash and whatever.
By the way, I have a Google Home. I got a Google Home for Christmas.
Google Home.
Yeah.
I think there are going to be too many of these things. We just found out that Lenovo has licensed this technology. They're going to make their own Alexa devices. They're going to undercut Amazon's prices. It's crazy. Like, there's just going to be so much of this stuff. Microsoft and its partners are going to get involved. We're going to find out about that soon. There's going to be Cortana appliances.
Have you had experience with the Google Home?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
I'm sorry.
You had Alexa.
That's not true.
Yeah.
We bought it and returned it.
With Google Home.
Yep, we bought the Amazon one and returned it.
Yeah.
So not really. I mean, no. I mean, I owned it. It was here.
Yeah.
It
So
was on my desk
I have one.
for a
My
month.
mother-in-law got me one, and I absolutely love it for playing music. I play Spotify on it. It's great. I could ask it a question. It's fine. But since I don't have, the smart home,
Yep.
it's really limited. And I kind of feel like Alexa's a little bit better.
It's probably more than a little bit better, and I that's frankly,
Because you could teach Alexa things.
it's kind of shocking. Well, there's so much more going on with it.
Yeah. And they have an advantage a little bit because they came out before. But I'm actually surprised that Google isn't taking like when you're asking it to play a playlist. Like I think Alexa's amazing. I could go to my TV and talk to Alexa because I have a Fire TV, and I say, Alexa, play New Year's Eve music for a 1-year-old's birthday, and it'll like pull it up. It'll know like 1-year-old New Year's party. It's smart on how it finds music. Google really does not do a good job at playlists. It'll play a song, but I could say play party music, and it's so broad. Like it'll play everything from Stevie Wonder to I don't know, like The Weeknd, is a band, a rap group. Paul, you don't know.
Nope,
It's not as smart as Alexa's, and that's crazy to think that Google's algorithm isn't as intelligent on this device as Amazon's is.
Amazon, no one saw this coming. Like I said, if you had said before Amazon came out with this device that they were going to ship it, everyone would have made fun of it. It makes no sense. They just don't have, these capabilities, and yet, here it is. So the other assumption you might make is, well, that's cute. Well, it's there, but then Google will come around and they'll do it right. And honestly, the Alexa the Alexa powered ecosystem, the Echo and those devices, has a big advantage over the Google stuff right now. It's so weird.
Yeah, very weird.
And they keep expanding the capabilities. They've done a great job with it. It's just, this was what I call a non-predictable moment.
I got a question. Do you have any Amazon predictions for this year? They are a consumer hardware company now.
Well, there are a lot of things, right?
They're
also one of the biggest cloud providers, for businesses, and obviously the biggest e-retailer in the world. No, I don't really. Amazon's not really a core focus for me. The one thing I wanted to say, actually, just back to something we talked about earlier. I hope that you were talking about games and Pokemon Go and all that, and I hope that Nintendo has learned the lesson of this Super Mario game, which is this: they need to be on mobile. And there is a nice place on mobile that is not as functional as what they can do on a console, but is still special and wonderful, and people will love it, and they'll buy millions of them. And they need to do more of that. They should always have these experiences on mobile. They should figure out a way to integrate the mobile experiences with their console stuff for the next generation. I hope that's part of the planning they're doing.
Yeah, that is.
They've just left a bunch of money on the table by ignoring mobile for so long. And they come out with this thing. I don't know if you've tried it, but if you're familiar with the Nintendo games on consoles, they've recreated the whole vibe of it one. And it's got the same level of quality. The graphical detail is fantastic. The playability is really, really good.
The Mario game?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
really impressive.
Yeah, it's one of the top selling games of all time, right? Already. It hasn't surpassed Pokemon Go, but it was really quick to sell. What do you know what? I got a Nintendo prediction. I think the Nintendo NX, their next console, will fail miserably. Way worse than people think. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think I
hope I'm wrong.
Well, there's this giant number of people who play games on mobile. And then there's kind of a small number of people who play games on a console.
The Nintendo Switch. Sorry, Switch.
Yeah, and the Switch kind of sits in the middle, right? And if they can attract enough people from the casual world, I like what they've shown. I mean, I kind of feel like it's too bad this didn't come out, instead of the Wii U, I guess.
I don't know. The Wii U was fine. It was perfectly fine. It's just the problem Nintendo had with the Wii U was not necessarily the hardware was really slow. The hardware was cool, but the software end was really, really slow. It was miserable to play for the first couple months. It was not good at all. But they were so slow to release franchise games where
Yeah.
it was almost there was no Zelda game. I mean, they did like
Right.
a remake, but it was just really really slow to release any kind of games. Nobody knew when it came out. It was cheap, and I think a lot of people bought it for that. I just I don't know at this point Nintendo could survive because every year they just do worse, and they just rely on the gimmicks. I don't know if they could survive another one like this where you're buying, all these
Well,
editions and
okay.
you're clicking things and you're moving. I don't know.
But okay, but their problem is they've been this one egg, one basket thing for too long, right? So their fortunes have gone up and down based on how well their consoles have done. So the Wii did tremendously well for a couple of years. It probably bought them a decade. This last one didn't do too well at all. This next one, there's a case to be made that Nintendo is kind of the Disney of the video game world.
Sure.
But they need to diversify, and I think getting into mobile helps. It's kind of like Microsoft. If Microsoft isn't doing very well in mobile, the PC's kind of down compared to other platforms. They've got big competition in the cloud. How do they? What do they do? They got to do something different. They can't just keep doing the same thing. And I think Nintendo's running into this issue too. So,
Yeah.
like I said, mobile's a big part of it. Nintendo could come up with a controller for the iPad that would be awesome for its games.
It would be. I mean,
It would kill.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would kill. I would buy it. I would
Or how
buy it
about- I
immediately.
mean,
So
listen,
millions of people would.
I had predicted this a couple of years ago, and it didn't happen. But I still stand by Nintendo's future. Kind of relies on Apple. What if they did an exclusivity thing with the Apple TV?
Exactly.
They sold
Yep.
the hardware. It's on your Apple TV. You download the games. You buy the games, and you just play it on that.
Sure.
I really think
That'd be good.
something
That's
like,
a good one. Yep.
Yeah,
that's good.
that's my prediction. And
And that the thing is, you could play games. It'd be easy to do iOS games back and forth from the TV to the
yeah,
handheld devices. It kind of solves the problem of portability.
I'm looking at this thing. I'm looking at the video that Nintendo released, and it's cool, but and you know what's interesting? Everybody playing this, they're not showing any kids in this commercial.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
know.
34-year-olds like me.
Well, I think so. Yeah, but it's supposed to be the people who grew up in the Nintendo, right?
I like here's part of the commercial is this girl, she's probably like 32, 33. She's playing the Switch, and her friends call her across the street, and they're like, "Hey, you coming to the party?" And she brings it with her, and it's like, "Hey guys, who wants to play Nintendo?"
Hey guys.
I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's a
Well,
reality.
okay. I mean, who knows? But I think the negative here is I like the portability, but
I do too.
there's almost too much going on, right? You've got the little side pieces that can clip on and be a controller, but there's all this stuff. You get a dock at home, you get the device itself, you can play it with the controller, not with the controller. Like there's
a lot of pieces. There's a lot of moving parts. And it's never good when you're a company
that
like
should
that.
be alarming to everybody,
Yeah.
right? I mean, those kinds of things have never done well. The first Nintendo, in fact, when it first came out, the United States, the NES, remember it had the robot with all the blocks and the gun and the console and the controllers, and then eventually they kind of whittled that down. It was a little too much, Or the Dreamcast came with the stupid little capsule things that went in the back of the controllers, and
The
it was like a
memory
little
card.
Tamagotchi thing or whatever.
Yeah, it had games on it. You could play like Tekken or something like that on it.
That's stupid. That's stupid. It's just too much. Like it's just you're overthinking this. There's too much stuff going on. And that's a problem. I nostalgically and just because I think they have maintained such a high level of quality, regardless of whatever their success may have been, they deserve for this to do well. Like I'd like to see it do well, just because there's nothing, kind of crappy going on with this company. Like they're very well respected for a good reason.
Yeah.
It's a good company.
It is a very good company. Yeah.
Like it's not like Apple where it's like they make beautiful products, but you got to kind of hate them. They're so full of awful ego and hubris, and then they get on stage and act all douchey, and it's like, oh, we love our customers. Here's a product nobody wants. Spend $3,200 on it. It's so awful in so many ways.
So
and then Nintendo is just not like that.
Just got an Apple Watch for Christmas. Somebody gave her an Apple Watch, a new one. And I always love her perception as far as what's good technology and what's not, because she's the average consumer. She's the average person using this device. It's not me. It's not you. It's not the 130 people in the chat room that's watching this. The normal person, will they buy this? She put it on. She goes, it's kind of nice. But what am I going to do?
Sure.
I go, your text messages. He goes, yeah, but I don't want this. Like now I got to charge this thing every day. Like it's
Well,
cool, but
the problem for the Apple Watch though is that the stuff it does well, which is like fitness tracking
fitness
and
tracker, yeah.
notifications,
Yeah, guess what? You
are
could do that with a $90 band.
that's exactly right. That was my point. That stuff all works fine on other devices too. The Apple One is just more expensive and it's prettier, and it only gets 1 day of battery life. So, like my wife just got a Fitbit, like I have, the same thing. She wants notifications from her text messages. So if it's like Mark or one of our kids or whatever, she can actually go get it. And if it's something stupid, she can ignore it. She wants, alarms and reminders and things like that, calendar events, and then fitness tracking, and it does all that stuff. And the thing lasts for 8 days on a charge.
Here's a good prediction you had. The new selfie stick will be the drone, and someone will die of injuries. And you had a big problem with these drones and how everybody had a drone, and it would lead to would lead to
drone
some
battles.
It would lead to some sort
I
of
probably use the phrase surface to air missile.
yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah.
Did the drone thing slow down? Do we see it going bigger?
No, I think they continue for a while. I think drones are heading for the selfie stick category, though, where they become just kind of an annoyance, and there's going to be rules or even laws in places that will prevent their usage. There's lots of privacy rules. There's lots of issues with, like, these things are really loud.
Very.
So if I went out in my backyard and I was playing with a drone, my neighbors, would be alerted to it because it would be so loud, and then would be alarmed because I'm flying this thing above their yard probably. And I could picture calls to the police. I could, I bet these things happen kind of all the time. So there'll always be like an enthusiast core of people who love this stuff, like model railroad guys or whatever, and they like taking drone pictures of, they fly it out over the ocean and whatever, and they do nice things with it. But I think a lot of it is, I don't think they go away, but I don't think it's, it's not like the next big thing either, really.
Yeah. So you had one here that you were off by a year, maybe 6 months. You're off. Day/date releases for movies at home. This is happening, and this is going to happen. Yes, it is.
I need
Sean
this so
Parker.
bad.
Sean Parker, Napster. Sean Parker, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He is his new company. They're working on this where you buy the movie. It's like $50, and you buy the movie, and you get day releases.
Yeah. Like I said, we have a beautiful screen. We have a 4K UHD HDR screen. I'd pay $50 for a movie to watch it that day. It's going to cost me $50 to go to some theater that has a beautiful big screen in 3D and whatever, and they serve food there. I just want to watch it at home. Yeah. I'd be happy to do that. Again, I'm sure this is exactly what I said last year.
Got a question for you, Paul. Here's one. What do you think the trend at CES is going to be this year? You're going there next. Yeah. What's going to be like?
Trend?
Every year there's something, right? There's like a new thing. Like drones were huge last year. It was all about drones last year.
Yeah.
CES. What do you see it being this year? Since you're going
a lot. I mean, robots. Yep.
Drones. Self-aware robots.
Car stuff, entertainment and navigation, platform integration in cars, home automation again, always over and over again. I tend to focus on the PC end of the world, and there's a lot of that stuff going on. There are going to be some phones announced, but Mobile World Congress is in a month and a half, so a lot of companies are waiting on that. But mobile drives everything, so there'll be some mobile stuff. I don't know that there's one big thing, but I guess car integration is going to be big, even though cars have been at CES forever, right? They've always been at CES. In the past, it used to be like a hatchback would open up and it would have like a stereo system the size of a Volkswagen in the back. And it's really kind of evolved. And what we have now are car makers coming and talking about the tech they're integrating into the cars. And so we've seen a hint from Nissan about something Cortana related, which is interesting. Volvo is putting Skype into the dashboard of the car, which is interesting. Fiat Chrysler, FCA, is integrating the free version of Android into their dashboard system, right? So it's not Android Auto, although you can get that too. It's literally they're putting Android behind their existing system, which will bring apps to the dashboard. Android apps, right? Very interesting. I think that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's not really like one thing, but
I don't know what to expect this year. I don't know what the big thing is going to be. I mean, the big story is going to be Qualcomm's chipset, the 835. That's going to be, the flagship chipset for every phone, and they're saying that it's way better than the previous generation, and it actually does some really cool stuff with video. It's a much faster chip. That'll probably be,
that's no different than any other year, though, is it really? I mean, like, we're excited about it because we know it's coming to Windows and it's going to be laptops and stuff, and that's very interesting. But they would have said the same thing last year about the 820 or the 821 or whatever was new.
Yeah. I mean, here's a prediction. Here's a bold prediction. We are going to see AMD make a comeback in the CPU market, and it will beat Intel in the benchmarks. In benchmarks. As far as performance and overall CPU.
You're a crazy person.
Oh, I'm losing it. That is my. Actually, I've heard some great stuff about the new chip that's coming out. So I'm predicting that AMD kind of gets their act together this year.
Okay.
And they make a comeback. It's the late 90s all over again. The K6 is coming back with 3D now technology. The Zen, the AMD Zen. One prediction from last year: low-end sub $100 PCs to be a big thing.
No, that never happened.
That never happened. I really thought it was going to be.
The opposite happened. This year, Microsoft and its partners abandoned the low end of the market to focus on premium PCs. If you think about all the new capabilities in the Windows 10 anniversary update, the big ones, they're not available in sub $200 computers. They're all in $1,500 computers. I actually, this is related to one of my predictions for the year. I wrote that Andromeda, which is that supposed combination of Android and Chromebook, or Android apps running on Chromebook or iPad Pro. One of them is going to get it right this year, meaning that for the first time, these things will be viable competitors to Windows in the low end of the market. If you think about, or in the iPad Pro case, the mid part of the market. If you think about how these devices do today, Chromebook is pretty good in education, but that's the end of it. And by the way, that's education in the United States only. It literally has no traction anywhere else in the world or with normal people.
I mean, it just contracts. That's why it has such in education.
Okay, but
but
what I'm saying is one of these things will take off, right? And that the combination of them getting it right and Microsoft and its partners effectively abandoning that part of the market. You can go look at all the CS announcements that have already occurred. Lenovo, HP, Dell, Asus, and Acer. Not one of them has announced a low-end computer of any kind. They're all $1,000 and up for the most part. Expensive premium devices because that's where the money's at. They're going for the premium part of the market. So it's sitting there. It's just sitting there waiting to be taken.
Can I give you another prediction? You know how Apple fixes this MacBook dilemma?
No.
They drop the price by $100.
$100?
$100. They drop the price.
So what I had written was Apple will do right by its MacBook Pro customers, but will not admit doing anything wrong. But I didn't explain what they would do to make it right because I frankly cannot figure it out.
Price drop, $100.
Well, think about how I actually think that this problem is as serious as the AntennaGate thing, right? And their reaction to that, their response to that should be studied because they lied their asses off. They never admitted to doing anything wrong. They completely screwed up the design of that thing willfully, even though antenna experts were telling them this would never work. They just wanted that design. They didn't care, form over function. And then we're so belligerent in that, Steve Jobs came back from vacation because he's such a hero, and he explained how other phones have this problem too, though no one has ever reported such a problem, not once in the history of mankind. And they gave away free bumpers, right? They were applauded for this.
Yeah.
There were editorials in major publications saying, Wow, they nailed that response. They did right by their customers. Um,
What
they
are they
need
going to give you with this one?
no, it's not. See, that's the thing.
A
They
dongle?
need that. No, it's not about giving away something. In other words, they need to have that level of response,
I don't think we're going to get it.
but it can't be the same thing. Like they can't. The answer isn't a dongle, right?
Yeah.
The problem with the device is not a dongle. The problem with the device is they cost $3,200. The problem with the device is that the keyboard is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The problem with the device is that it doesn't have a single normal USB port on it. The problem with the device is that it just ignores all of the needs of the actual customer base for this thing. It's almost like what they need. Actually, here. Okay, I'm almost on it. This is how Apple fixes it.
Okay. Excellent.
They come up with something above the MacBook Pro,
Pro Plus.
and it's like
What are we calling
yeah, it's like
Give me a name.
workstation.
Give me
yeah,
a name.
Pro Plus, beautiful.
Okay.
Here's why it's beautiful. It's going to be thicker.
Okay.
It's going to have the ports. It's going to have the better keyboard. It's not going to have the touch bar, or could. It doesn't matter, actually. Here's why this is a beautiful Apple response to this problem. That device costs more money.
Yeah.
They actually raise the price.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what? If you don't want this thing, you can have the other one.
You could have the other one.
That's a very Apple response.
You know what? I like that. And it's touchscreen.
Well, that's not. They can't do that right away. Mac OS is not ready for touchscreen.
How about this? What if they release that super MacBook that we're talking about, and
Yep.
the screen comes off and it runs iOS?
Jeez, no.
Oh,
No.
I'm going crazy.
You're
with
missed.
this.
No, you've completely missed the point.
I know.
This has to address the needs of its pro customers.
Yeah.
You're describing something whimsical. They they need to remove the whimsical stuff.
Yeah.
Like in other words,
Go
they're
back,
not
yeah.
like people are saying, look, I don't care if it weighs a pound more. I just I need the stuff.
Guys,
It needs to have 32 gigs of RAM.
Go buy a 2015
you know.
MacBook Pro and call it a day. That's the one that you want. That's the one.
What if they sold that design with Kaby Lake processor inside?
That'd be wonderful. I would love it. I actually love this Mac, the one that I got. I really, really like it. I was not a big fan of the haptic touch, the force touch trackpad, but I really got used to it. They fixed some of the issues with it. I do have this weird problem now where since I had it repaired, my fan will go on randomly. Like it's running at a low temperature, but the fan goes to like 6,000 RPM. So I think the sensor got whacked out. The other thing that I've always had a problem with where you could turn off the sound for the keyboard, which is really cool that you could do that on this thing. But at times it just comes back on the sound. It's like the super hard click, like every time you press it. Listen, I would love this. If they brought this back, that would be great for them. I had a couple more things I just wanted to touch on, and we could do our bonus show, guys. If you're watching this live, stay tuned. We're going to continue the show. We're going to do our live bonus show where we'll continue some of our predictions and some of our issues with 2016 with technology and what we didn't see that I really was hoping to see. We'll touch on that a little bit. You had one here: 500 million active Windows 10 devices by 1 year anniversary / year's end at least.
Yeah, not even close.
Not even close. I was shocked.
You remember when they announced in the middle of the year that they weren't going to hit $1 billion, and they made up this thing about phone being the reason. Phone was never the reason.
Billion devices.
They expected PC upgrades to go at a much faster clip than they did, and then they shot themselves in the foot by being idiots about it and trying to force it down people's throats. And the reason that thing fell short is because of that. It had nothing to do with phone, and that's what my prediction was based on. If this thing had gone to what they thought it was going to do, instead of 25 million, whatever it is now, they would have hit 500 million by the end of the year.
Yeah.
That was that they were expecting to be able to say we got to halfway in 1 year. That was their expectation.
You also wrote, Windows Phone will crater with 1% market share, leading to Microsoft expanding Android phone push with universal app support, deeper platform integration.
Okay, so the first half of that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nothing on Android yet. Yeah, it's too bad.
What else would they have done on Android, do you think?
Well,
we're gonna
they would have made. No, what I meant by what I said last year was that they would expand the universal app platform to Android.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Interesting. I think that was most of them. I think we had all of it. You know, some of it we hit pretty well. The VR stuff we were right on. Everything else we were almost wrong. No, you got some of it right, actually.
Well, I've never once claimed, and I will
No,
say right now, the
it's just
opposite is true.
fun.
I'm not very good at predictions. This is
Absolutely.
not,
This is just fun stuff.
yeah, I don't hang my hat on that.
Listen,
So,
I hit the
um,
nail on the head with Microsoft announcing a new model of Xbox One.
yeah, that's great.
I,
Yeah, 1% for Windows Phone was obviously accurate.
Yeah.
I'd still like to see the Android thing happen. I think that'd be kind of a neat deal. Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Guys,
I don't.
Paul is going to CES. He's going to be there. Are you doing any meetups?
No. 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 We're going to be very busy.
Are you going to be on the floor? Are you going to be walking and talking to
Yep.
people?
Yep.
You are. So if you see
Yep. We have
Paul,
meetings. We have things to see. We're booked.
if you see Paul, tell him I love him.
Yeah. Just get out of the way because I'm going to be moving quick.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind talking. I'm not just kidding, but I don't know. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But we're only there really for 2 solid days,
Yeah.
and then we're leaving on a red eye on Friday night. It's going to be.
What time do you get back home?
8 o'clock in the morning or something. Or
Like a real red eye. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Guys,
no, I'm looking forward to it.
go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. We're everywhere podcasts are available. Please subscribe because it helps us out every year when you guys subscribe. It's every year the number gets bigger and bigger, and that's wonderful. Also, stay tuned for our bonus show. If you're watching this live, stay tuned. It's going to air live. If you listen to the podcast, go to patreon.com/whatthetech. Fund us, and you get access to all this bonus stuff that we do following each and every show. Follow Paul on Twitter at Thurrott. Paul also does a great show called Windows Weekly every Wednesday at 2 p.m. East with Mary Jo Foley and Leah Laporte. And the daily First Ring Daily podcast. You do a daily podcast, and on Fridays, you do it live for free.
Yep.
You could access the free show just by going to Thurrott.com. And the daily is a premium. You could just sign up to Thurrott.com and get access to these daily podcasts where you and Brad, I love the show, actually. I have not listened to today's show because I had to go to a lawyer, but I will listen, and it's about CES, going to CES.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, you can follow me on Twitter, and that's it for this week. We'll see you all later.